Not consider it practical for you. Not practical in the first place, because since not all the beings of the earth are like representatives of art, this advice does not apply to all of them in general. And secondly, because it will be inconvenient for you always to have to remember all these numerous particularities and each time to stop and think on which occasion which of these numerous weaknesses of theirs must be tickled. I wish to point out to you one great secret of their psyche. Namely, I wish to point out to you only one particularity of theirs, which, if you know how to profit by it, might create in each one of them the same effect in their manifestations about which Ahun spoke. If you will act upon them through this same particularity, then you will not only be in very good terms with them all, but even if you wish, you will be able, knowing this secret of their psyche, fully to ensure your tranquil and happy existence there as regards money necessarily required there, as well as other conveniences. The taste and blissful significance of which our dear teacher expressed by the words, "roses, roses." You no doubt, my boy, have already guessed that by this secret of their psyche I refer just to this same, as I call it, psycho-organic need of theirs to teach others sense, and to put them on the right road. This special property formed in their psyche, thanks of course always to the same abnormally established conditions of ordinary being existence, becomes, as it were, when each of them already becomes a responsible being, an obligatory part of his presence. Everyone there, without exception, has this psycho-organic need. Old and young, men and women, even those who they call prematurely born. The mentioned particular need of theirs arises in them in its turn, thanks to another particular property of theirs, which is that from the very moment when each of them acquires the capacity of distinguishing between wet and dry, then, carried away by this attainment, he ceases forever to see and observe his own abnormalities and defects, but sees and observes those same abnormalities and defects in others. It has already become customary here at the present time that all your favorites always teach others like themselves even things the notion of which they have not even dreamed of, and the joke of it is that if these others do not learn from him, or at least do not pretend that they wish to learn, then they are not only offended, but even always inwardly very sincerely indignant. And on the contrary, if one of these others should learn sense from them, or at least pretend that he is very anxious to learn it, then these beings will not only love and respect him, but will feel fully satisfied and greatly delighted. It must be remarked here that only in these circumstances can your favorites speak about others without malice and without criticism. And so, my boy, I strongly advise you that if for any reason you have to exist among them, always pretend that you wish to learn something from them. Act in the same way towards their children, and then you will not only be on excellent terms with them all, but the whole family will even look on you as the honored friend of the house. Always remember that any one of them, however insignificant he himself may be in essence, looks down, owing always to his self-conceit ensuing from this particular property, with contempt upon the conduct and actions of others, especially if their conduct and actions sharply contradict his own subjectively established point of view. And in these cases he, as I've already said, usually becomes inwardly, sincerely offended and indignant. I might as well here remark that thanks to this property of your favorites always to grow indignant at the defects of others around them, they make their existence, already wretched and abnormal without this, objectively unbearable. Thanks to this constant indignation, the ordinary being existence of these unfortunates flows almost always with unproductive what are called moral sufferings. And these futile moral sufferings of theirs continue, as a rule, by momentum, to act for a very long time on their psyche, so to say, zemzekionally, or as they would say there on your planet, depressingly. That is, they ultimately become, of course without the participation of their consciousness, instruarian, or as they would say, nervous. And then they become, in the process of their ordinary being existence, completely uncontrolled, even in those being manifestations of theirs which have nothing in common with the primary cause which have evoked this instruarness or nervousness of theirs. Only thanks to this property of theirs alone, to be indignant at the defects of others, their existence has become gradually even arch-tragic comic. For instance, at every step there, you meet a picture of this sort. These freaks lose, so to say, that outer mask which, thanks to the same maleficent means existing there, called education, most of them have little by little learned to wear from their childhood, and thanks to which they can very well conceal their genuine inner and outer trifling significance from others. And in consequence, they automatically become slaves of others to the degree of humiliation. Or as they themselves say there, they fall as regards all their inner experience under somebody's thumb. For instance, under the thumb of wife or mistress, or of such another who by some means has ferreted out that inner insignificance of the given terrestrial being, and thus the latter ceases to have for them this artificial mask. And indeed, it is just such a terrestrial being under somebody's thumb who, as a rule, is more indignant than anyone else at other beings of their planet, as for instance at some king, who for some reason or other is unable to keep in submission tens or hundreds of thousands of his community. And it is just such beings who are under somebody's thumb who usually write various manuals in which they show in detail how and what must be done for the good government of others. Or again, when one of the contemporary beings of this peculiar planet, whose heart, as they say, always sinks into his boots from fright, when, for instance, a mouse runs past him, learns that so-and-so, on meeting a tiger, felt a little timid, then this hero will be inwardly extremely indignant with him and will, without fail, in conversation with his friends, foaming at the mouth, denounce him and prove that he is a vile criminal coward for having been frightened by such a mere tiger. And yet again the various books and manuals concerning also what must be done and how, and what must not be done on meeting a tiger or other similar being, are written by those mouse-unflinching heroes there. Or further, one of them who has a score of various, as it is said there, chronic diseases, thanks to which for whole weeks at a time his stomach does not work, and his body is covered with all kinds of malignant pimples, and which diseases he of course suffers day and night. In short, such a being there, who for many years has been a genuine walking anatomical museum of all the diseases existing on that planet, is always more in